We hope today that you'll have some access to new capital, learn about new ideas, and find ways to access capital in new or innovative ways. But at the same time, we're hoping you're going to learn about new partnerships that are possible and finding ways to connect with new people to support your business endeavors around the world.
I'm so excited for a couple of reasons. One is because I get to hang out with all my pals, and the other reason is because we get to be in a room full of entrepreneurs.
I think it's an exciting time. You know, all of us in the room are sort of benefiting from that and living it every day. You know, with 4 billion people connected to the web, with cloud computing, you know, as a resource, you know, the barriers of capital, it used to be a big problem in Canada in terms of growing companies really quickly, has come down dramatically.
That is really a convergence now of a software play of taking big data and rolling it into a clean tech opportunity. So we're seeing a lot more of those deals, and we've looked at a couple of deals recently, you know, which have a bit of a social networking angle to them around energy.
I think cloud, mobility are important trends. The geekier and sort of tech companies have been able to take that stuff up early, but there's still a lot of room for adoption of that stuff in traditional industries.
And they're changing retail as we know it, especially in Canada, which is an underserved market, using social connectivity to the retail experience and what we call in the Valley social commerce, which is a really big wave of change.
Demographics, obviously a huge trend in most of the Western world. The mobility of people and changing consumption patterns. You know, historically, we've always managed the supply side of the equation. Today, we're much more focused on managing the demand side of the equation, and we think these types of trends are where the opportunities are.
If you're starting a business in Canada, I've seen it that we have to build our businesses a little bit differently. In Canada, we need to be able to be born global immediately. And so what you need to do if you're sitting in the audience and you're building a big business and you're going to build $1 billion company that Chris is going to put some money into, you guys need to think about going global instantly. And so I'd encourage you to think about doing that, and there's lots of resources and help to do it, but I think it's fundamental to Canadian entrepreneurs to be cognizant of that and to make it priority number one if you're going to be a big bad company.
How important is it to you to understand your exit criteria?
You know, one of the things we do before we go into any investment is to really look at what's our exit strategy, and we have a lot of debate around our partners table around what the eventual exit is. Our approach is let's build companies first, and we'll work on exits as we're building.
How do you convince, I guess, Canadian investors that building the platform first is actually more important than generating, you know, fast velocity of revenue right away?
The one piece of advice I would give you, I was asked, you know, as I was starting this business, you know, what's the one thing you've learned across all these businesses? Stop trying to sell something to somebody who doesn't want to buy it.
So I'm trying to find an investor partner. So I sent them out a few emails, so they were looking for me, so they'd recognize my name when I came across them. So I've managed to hook up with 2 or 3 of them, and they've agreed to chat further.
Excellent. So next steps, I guess?
Next steps, I think, will be contacting them directly, sending over my pitch deck, and putting a presentation opportunity together. Yeah,
thank you.
Very cool.
I think it's a mistake to think that if you contact a VP at a large organization, immediately that they'll fast track you. The reality is the real decision makers and people who actually get the work are the middle management and lower middle management.
First and foremost, the #1 mandate we have is to make money. There's nothing sort of in our mandate that says we need to leverage other existing owners' assets, whether that be in the infrastructure space or the property space. It really is to go out and take advantage of the opportunity that exists in the Canadian marketplace initially, where there's a massive supply of high-quality technology companies with, you know, very little capital available for those companies. And so we've really, you know, the first part of our strategy this year was identifying what we believe to be the best companies in the country and aggressively go after them.
You can't be an innovative company without a sales force that can sell innovation and drive value, right? So Cisco has a track record of having probably the most expensive products in every single category we sell into, right? So how do we do that? And we do that by having a sales force that doesn't sell on price. So my advice is, on that piece, make sure you're selling to a salesperson. Get your pitch down. Don't send me an email saying, hey, I have something interesting or whatever. Make it compelling, right? Because we get hit with an awful lot of things.
I think the ideas around how you take those things that used to sit around idle before we had these devices in our hands 24/7 and creating new businesses and markets around that are really exciting, and one of the things that we talk about a lot in the Valley.
They're saying the core experience is going to be around the device that's in your hand, and of course, we agree with that. So whether it's consumer or business, we believe that your life is basically enabled by the device and revolves around the device, and look to leverage the feature set of this very personal experience that you have.
With the arrival of tablets, we see companies, for example, that are doing process modeling, but where they can now carry the process model right to the shop floor, right to the industrial process that's being modeled. All of the compute, data access, etc. is now happening in the cloud as opposed to happening on a PC. But all of the user interaction is happening on a tablet. And that has incredible potential to disrupt the incumbents because it requires that there be a rethink of the architecture. And whenever there's a rethink of the architecture, it's a big advantage for nimble startups.
How do I find the proper body that will be helping?
We have a deep belief in technical and product founders at Sierra. That is what we like to back. We also think that's very core to our way of operating, that we can add or help hire the team. In our view, venture capital is about value of the network that you bring to the party. It's just not the capital, but it's who do you know in marketing or sales. Let's say that your company is doing infrastructure security, right? So I have to come to the party and say, okay, if you're looking for a direct sales guy, Joe over here from McAfee was the guy that made $100 million happen for McAfee. He's pluckable. Let's go pluck him.
I think there's one good deal per year, not 5. And where a lot of the VCs or investors are missing is to step rapidly, because an entrepreneur that's in the right move, and momentum is important, so he needs to move fast, wants a partner that moves fast.
The do's and don'ts for VCs, that's really great, and just wisdom, you know what I mean, and advice. It's you have top guys that are out there, really telling you how it is and how they think and how they process things, and how they make deals together. So that information for me is absolutely invaluable.
We have broad themes like social, mobile, cloud that we think are the real themes of our generation. And then we invest in the best entrepreneurs that want to partner up with us. Usually in the first 30 seconds, you're like, this person's an entrepreneur. For me, I think the number one thing is really passion, hard work, commitment.
We've been funding also that next generation of entrepreneurs. There's a ton of cohorts that are graduating all across the country of early stage new entrepreneurs, new companies. Having that network to help in business development, sales and marketing, partnerships, because that ecosystem for North American companies and North American, hopefully, IPOs down the road is invaluable.
When you're talking about companies we're looking at, one of the approaches that we've had that's been very successful for us in the inception of our fourth fund is really architecting projects from the ground up. In relationships with returning teams with whom we've made money in the past, CEOs or experienced entrepreneurs that have very deep knowledge of their given sectors within some of the themes I've just expressed. And we tend to work with customers and commercial partners with whom we have privileged relationships and tend to put companies around that.
The Social Network, the movie about Facebook, I want to imagine you're in the Harvard dorm, and it's your idea, and you're now looking for investment capital. who would you go to among the other members of the panel first?
Who's the right fit for you? At that time, Mark Zuckerberg picked Excel. You know, it's a long-term, many-year relationship, and you know, if you're picking an investment partner that's kind of been there and done that and had a lot of success, you know, I think that's where you want to kind of lead.
We are that Canadian-based company. We're trying to become a multinational billion-dollar company. And the question I fear coming from you guys is, what is your exit strategy?
It's not something that I would spend a lot of time worrying about or focusing on, or you know, in terms of what the timing is or what your exit's going to be. I think you just need to focus on growing the business, and you know, if you're executing well, then that time will come. We sell way too early, particularly in Canada, for whatever reason, and you know, we need to hold on to our companies that are really good, and you know, continue to grow them to become world leaders.
First of all, try not, for example, go to China to do yourself. Number one, this is a big no. Number two is try not go to China and find immediate a local Chinese partner to form some kind of a joint venture, which almost like you marry someone without even dating the person.
If you're going after Koreans and want to sell to Korean customers, you're probably in the wrong market. But if you want to sell to the conglomerates, a handful of companies who's doing 60% of Korean trillion dollar GDP, what they're doing is they're building products and selling it all over the world. So by getting it designed in to these guys, you have instant access to China and India and North America and Europe.
Southeast Asia is not a homogeneous region. Some of the general trend we can tell at this point is certainly there is a rising middle class for better healthcare, education, more transparency of the government. You know, for example, with Singapore, you know, given their urbanization and the small footprint, water shortage has always been a kind of a perennial issue. Indonesia, you know, they have a lot more power capacity to build on the supply side, but they also recognize on the demand side, the infrastructure is also, you know, so 1980s.
If you're an entrepreneur and you're taking money from a venture capital firm and you believe that it takes on average 10 to 15 years to build a business, then you better get money in the first year of existence of that company if you want to have that much time.
Our view right now is we're really focused on the media and technology industries. We have about 5 media companies and about 15 technology companies. It is very hard with 15, 20 companies, or even 25 at that time that we had, to play that co-owner role. So our view is more really focused on the current companies that we have to grow them. My belief is obviously that growing a company and building a company takes pretty much 10, 15 years. So again, you need to have that vision of wanting to be in that industry for a long time and really investing and spending the time with your entrepreneur, being in the same boat and growing that company.
My impression in talking to corporate VCs is most investments that corporate VCs make are not made with a vision that this is a step towards an acquisition. You know, that might happen and the relationship might evolve to that. But that initial, if they're really thinking that up front, they'll tend to move more aggressively towards the M&A up front. That initial investment is usually based on kind of a combination of seeing the opportunity to leverage and partner the larger corporation with that startup, and then wanting a little piece of that action from a venture perspective. But that first investment usually isn't made with an acquisition in mind.
When you're in a Y Combinator style accelerator, incubator kind of program, you get a little bit of money for that 3 or 4 months that you're in the program. But if you graduate from Y Combinator, Digital Sky, who's obviously the big Facebook investor, you get $50,000 or $100,000. So what BDC is doing in strategic investments and strategic initiatives is giving those companies, if they graduate, $150,000 convertible note. And that enables them to go from really just only 3 months and then, oh, what do I do now, to here, I've got the plan, I've been mentored, and I've got another 6 months of window to really build something.
You have to look at sort of going to where the investors are. There are some strong signals in Canada. We recently completed an $80 million private round for Desire to Learn, a company which had never taken institutional money before, and that was led by a big international fund and by Omers Ventures. So I think that the support that Canadian companies can get in the pre-IPO phase is strong. And as long as you're open-minded about where you go, I think the market is pretty good.